Good morning. My name is Carolyn Dawson. I'm the CEO of Founders Forum Group. On behalf of Informatech, Founders Forum, London and Partners and Tech London Advocates, welcome to the week that is none other than London Tech Week. And not just any edition. In case you haven't noticed, we are celebrating our 10th anniversary year. And we're absolutely delighted to welcome over 30,000 people into the capital this week, and with representation from over 100 countries. London Tech Week has evolved a lot since its inception, but the constant remains. We are passionate that this be a powerful, convening and open platform to anyone who is interested in the UK tech sector, across the country and from overseas, and that we fuel the sector's growth to make the UK a global leader in science, innovation and technological advancement. How? It is a celebration. The UK has the third largest tech sector globally, with so many competitive advantages in education, corporate innovation, talent and access to capital. This is a week to shine a spotlight on the brilliant work done by so many to support the ecosystem. And it's a chance to educate and share insight across the content streams that we have into how the UK can excel in the industries in the future. From deep tech to fintech, green technologies to life sciences, and the steps we must take to drive the development of skills and diversity in the sector. And finally, it's a chance to connect enterprises, entrepreneurs, investors, academics, and government. Across fireside chats, meetups, and roundtables, it is time to shape the impact of technology on our economy and society. And the volume of international delegations and attendees joining us this week shows that we are still the connecting gateway to Europe on the global stage. Like the tech sector we convene and serve, we're not sitting still with London Tech Week, and we're now looking forward to the next 10 years. I am delighted to announce that we will move to Olympia in 2024, where we will double our space again. Under one roof, it allows us to include more content streams, more meeting spaces to network, more international pavilions, enterprise innovation, demo zones, and a brand new startup hub. And not to forget, more opportunities to connect and celebrate. Some thank yous. First of all, thank you to our founding partners who are alongside us, London Partners and Tech London Advocates, and in particular to Janet Coyle and Rush Shaw. Thank you to all our sponsors, and especially IBM, the Dubai Department of Economy and Tourism, and PwC, who without their support, we couldn't make this happen. And to our London Tech Week ambassadors and stakeholders across government and industry bodies. To the London Tech Week team from Informatech Founders, our JV between Informatech and Founders Forum, that have worked tirelessly and passionately to put this entire week together. And thank you to all of you. We hope you have the most incredible week, and if you're from overseas, we pre-ordered this weather, so a very warm welcome indeed. The housekeeping bit, there are no planned fire alarm tests, so if you hear anything, please do evacuate the building by the nearest exits. And without further ado, let's get started. We will have some opening words of welcome from the Prime Minister, who will then be joined on stage for a fireside chat with Demis Hassabis from DeepMind. So, I would now like to introduce our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Rishi Sunak, to the stage.
Good morning. It's great to be back at London Tech Week at what I think is a moment of huge opportunity. We are an island of innovation, but at a moment like this, when the tectonic plates of technology are shifting, not just in AI, but in quantum, synthetic biology, semiconductors, and much more, we cannot rest satisfied with where we stand. We must act, and act quickly if we want not only to retain our position as one of the world's tech capitals, but to go even further and make this the best country in the world to start, grow, and invest in tech businesses. That is my goal, and I feel a sense of urgency and responsibility to make sure that we seize it Because one of my 5 priorities is to grow our economy. And the more we innovate, the more we grow. But this isn't just about economics. Like you, I believe that innovation is one of the most powerful forces for transforming people's lives. And right now, there is an opportunity for human progress that could surpass the Industrial Revolution in both speed and breadth. I believe the UK can achieve this goal because we start from a position of strength. We've created 134 unicorns in the last decade, 3rd in the world, behind only the US and China. We're one of the most digitally literate societies in the world, with a higher percentage of STEM graduates than the US, and 4 of the world's top 10 universities. We've got extraordinary strengths in fintech, cyber, and creative industries, and engineering biology, where from the Crick and the Biobank to DeepMind's AlphaFold, we're pushing at the boundaries of what is possible in health. And the UK is the best place in Europe to raise capital, invested in tech here than in France and Germany combined. But today, I want to answer a simple question. What's the single most important reason innovators like you should choose this country? The answer is leadership. Do you trust the people in charge to really get what you're trying to do? With this government and with me as your Prime Minister, you can. Judge us not by our words, but our actions. It's this government that's building the most pro-investment tax regime, that's increasing public R&D investment to record levels, that's making our visa system for international talent one of the most competitive in the world. We're overhauling our listing rules to make it easier for companies to raise public funding and changing our pension rules to unlock new private capital. And we're changing the way government itself works. I created a brand new department focused on science, innovation, and technology, with a mission to do things differently, from bringing in world-leading experts to taking more risks in support of innovation. And when the moment came, it was this government that acted to rescue Silicon Valley Bank. So today I'm proud to announce the launch of HSBC Innovation Banking, the most significant global tech bank, combined with HSBC's firepower and headquartered here in the UK. And of course, it's the UK where Google chose to bring together its entire AI division, under the leadership of a Brit, Demis Hassabis, at Google DeepMind. And if our goal is to make this country the best place in the world for tech, AI is surely one of the greatest opportunities before us. As Chancellor, I doubled the number of AI scholarships, because even back then I recognized the potential of AI as a general-purpose technology. Now, with most things in life, the more you learn about them, the less magical they appear. But the more we learn about frontier technologies like AI, the more they widen our horizons. Already, we've seen AI help the paralyzed to walk and discover superbug-killing antibiotics. And that's just the beginning. Combined with the computational power of quantum, we could be on the precipice of discovering cures for diseases like cancer and dementia, or ways to grow crops that could feed the entire world. The possibilities are extraordinary. But we must and we will do it safely. I know people are concerned. The very pioneers of AI are warning us about the ways these technologies could undermine our values and freedoms through to the most extreme risks of all. And that's why leading on AI also means leading on AI safety. So we're building a new partnership between our vibrant academia, brilliant AI companies, and a government that gets it. And we'll do that in 3 ways. First, we're going to do cutting-edge safety research here in the UK. With £100 million for our expert task force, we're dedicating more funding to AI safety than any other government. We're working with the frontier labs, Google DeepMind, OpenAI, and Anthropic. And I'm pleased to announce they've committed to give early or priority access to models for research and safety purposes, to help build better evaluations and help us better understand the opportunities and risks of these systems. Second, AI doesn't respect traditional national borders. So we need global cooperation between nations and labs. Just as we unite through COP to tackle climate change, so the UK will host the first ever summit on global AI safety later this year. I want to make the UK not just the intellectual home, but the geographical home of global AI safety regulation. And third, we're going to seize the extraordinary potential of AI to improve people's lives. That's why we're already investing record sums in our capability, including £900 million in compute technology and $2.5 billion in quantum. And we're harnessing AI to transform our public services, from saving teachers hundreds of hours of time spent lesson planning, to helping NHS patients get quicker diagnoses and more accurate tests. AI can help us achieve the holy grail of public service reform, better, more efficient services. So this is our strategy for AI, to lead at home, to lead overseas, and to lead change in our public services. All part of how we meet our goal of making this the best country in the world for tech. And let me just conclude with this final thought. I was recently looking through a collection held by the British Library, and I saw a letter from Charles Babbage to the then Chancellor, dating from the 1830s, thanking him for funding his difference engine, the forerunner of the modern computer. That was a decisive moment. The British government broke with the conventions of the time, and for a decade backed this breakthrough technology. We're at a similar moment today. And I'm determined that when future researchers visit the British Library in 200 years' time, they will discover that this government, and all of us here in this room, met this moment with the same courage, vision, and determination. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, Prime Minister. It's fantastic to hear your enthusiasm for AI and the role the UK can play on the global stage to steer it successfully for the world. And I've really appreciated our conversations we've had over the last few weeks about how we can develop AI both boldly but also responsibly. And I think it's important that government and industry work together on this. And this is why I think London Tech Week is really important for giving us a platform for exchanges just like this. Over the next few years, as the Prime Minister said, I think AI is clearly going to offer some incredible opportunities to make life better. And at Google DeepMind, we're particularly excited about how AI can help advance science and medicine, the energy transition, and improve the lives of billions of people. So, Prime Minister, I was wondering, what do you think are the biggest opportunities for AI to make a positive impact in the UK?
Well, first of all, thanks, Demis, for having me, and congratulations on everything you're doing. I think if I think about it, there's the obvious economic one. I talked about AI being a general purpose technology, and this idea of every job essentially having AI as the co-pilot, just making everyone's job a little bit easier, a little bit more productive, and that replicated across an entire economy obviously has enormous potential to change how we do things. So I think that's probably the first one. Beyond that, in public services, health and education, I think in health, we're already seeing the promise of what AI can do, whether it's new drug discovery or helping doctors do surgery more accurately and faster, or indeed detect cancers and other things much earlier than they otherwise would. And we're just at the beginning of the innovation that's happening. There's something you know well with AlphaFold on the drug discovery side. So that, to me, seems potentially transformative. And education is the thing that I'm most excited about because it's the thing I'm most passionate about. I always say, look, there's not many things that are silver bullets in public policy, but world-class education is probably the closest we have to it. It's the best way to spread opportunity, to reduce inequality. And the power of AI to reduce teachers' workloads and burdens, lesson planning, marking, but also to provide personalized learning for each individual, which we know when it comes to tutoring is so powerful.
Now, technology, holds out the promise that every pupil, every student, having a personalized tutor, I think that potentially is just extraordinary in terms of the good it can do. So those are probably the things that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I agree with all of those things, and I think this is the potential, actually, specifically in the UK and also London, of fusing together AI with all of the great strengths we have in many other sectors, like fintech and biology, like you said, gaming, all of these other sectors where AI, I think, can have some massive transformations. So how do you think the UK, we can make the UK the best place in the world to both start and scale up tech companies?
I hear this a lot. I think the first thing to say is we're already a great place to scale up a tech business. And I mentioned the stat in my remarks. If you look at the last decade, more unicorns in this country than anywhere other than the US and China. So I think that's a pretty good record and a good base for us to start from. But obviously, we need to keep doing more. We need to keep pushing ourselves. The first thing is people. I think there's an extraordinary stat. Something like half of all of our fastest growing innovation businesses have a foreign-born founder. So that tells you need a visa system that attracts the best and the brightest to the UK. And I think we've got one, whether it's the new scale-up visa that I introduced as Chancellor for companies who are scaling up to be able to get the talent they need, whether it's our innovator founder visa, which is globally extremely competitive, or the high potential individual visa that I created, which essentially says if you graduated from a global top 50 university, just come to the UK. You don't need a job offer. We just want to make sure that you can speak English and that you have a certain amount of money to support yourself. But otherwise, we just want you here because we think it will be additive to our economy. That's a massive "we're open for business" sign to the world's most talented, and I think that's important. Capital, look, we're closing the gap. If you look at VC funding as a percentage of GDP, whereas we had quite a big gap towards it to the US 5-7 years ago. That gap is steadily closing. The Chancellor's making a ton of reforms in pensions, insurance industry to unlock even more capital. The thing I'd love to get your thoughts on, though, actually, is culture. Because I took that from my time living in California. You obviously know that well as well.
Yeah.
And the government can do all these things, but fundamentally it requires the entrepreneurs to just keep going, to be not content with building the £100 million business and then the £1 billion business, but just to keep growing. And that I found in California is very much the attitude. It's just the sky is the limit. Everyone thinks they can create a $100 billion company, and actually, changing that culture is tough for government to do. But I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah,
that's a harder bit.
I totally agree. I mean, I've seen the whole actually transformation in the last. When we started DeepMind back in 2010, and things were very different then. I remember our first investors, who were US based, and we had to go to the US to get our first investment, were suspicious that you could build huge deep tech companies anywhere other than Silicon Valley, and I wanted to prove that that could be done. And I hope we played our small part in making that easier now to and I agree with you, the environment's transformed completely from back 10, 15 years ago. And I think it is a lot easier to start and grow very difficult and very meaningful deep tech companies. So it's been great to see that, and I think there's a huge opportunity from here. And I also agree with you that we have to be open to talent from internationally, and I think the UK does really well on that. Yeah. So you mentioned Babbage in your opening remarks. He's a great hero of mine, but the UK has always had a rich science and tech heritage. How do you think we can sort of build on that into the future? And people like Alan Turing, it's amazing, and Ada Lovelace, amazing history we have on AI specifically, actually, but computer science in general.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes even broader than that. I mean, you think about the Industrial Revolution. I mean, just the number of inventions that happened here, right? Whether we all kind of obviously know about steam and then the forerunners of electricity, but the mechanizing textiles, a new process to make steel. You can go on and on. I think even the lawnmower was invented during that period, right? So that's our heritage. I think actually the slightly kind of the more interesting things, if I think about going forward, are twofold. One is our approach to regulation. I think there's always, when it comes to technology and new businesses, this balance to be struck between regulation that supports innovation but puts appropriate protection in place. And I just think the UK has a track record of getting that balance right, and not everyone does. But I think the other thing, which probably is only going to become more important, is the fact that we're also a global powerhouse when it comes to the creative side of things. And the creative industries in the UK are going like gangbusters. I mean, growing twice as fast as the economy. You think the amount of awards we're winning, post-production, pre-production, you name it. I mean, this is a creative industries powerhouse, and not just film and TV, but everything on advertising, marketing, and all the rest, gaming, as you mentioned. And actually, I just think as technology infuses the creative industries far more than it has in the past, again, that just plays to our strengths, because there are very few countries, if any, which punch at the weight that we do when it comes to creative industries, and I think that is a unique strength that we have, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And just going back to what you said earlier of also it's just about having the ambition to play at that global stage. I think that's something all the entrepreneurs in the audience can do more of. And again, I think probably something you learned over at Stanford and Silicon Valley, and I've been learning as well since interacting with Google. And just we have all the ingredients here. We've got amazing world-class universities, incredible talent pool, incredible heritage. We've just got to go for it.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's about confidence,
Yeah.
right? It's about ambition, having the confidence that you can realize those ambitions. And success breeds success. Your example, DeepMind's example, will hopefully inspire others maybe here today. And when we're here in a couple of years' time, we'll be celebrating the next DeepMind. That's how this is meant to work,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. So AI is, we've been talking about AI is obviously a huge strength for the UK, but of course we're also very good at many other technologies too. What other things excite you?
So I think the things, if I think about the big growth industries in tech, AI, semiconductors, we talked about engineering, biology, quantum. Those are probably the tech sectors that I think we need to make sure we're well positioned for, and I believe we are. Of all of those, I think probably life sciences is the one that is particularly exciting. And yes, we have Europe's biggest life sciences industry. We've got an incredible research base. But you saw during the pandemic, not only were we able to create a vaccine here, we also had a regulator that meant that we were the first place to approve a vaccine as well, and it showed the agility that I think the UK is known for. And then you combine that with the unique strengths we have with the biobank and genomic sequencing. I mean, you know this probably better than me, so it'd be interesting to get your perspective. When I talk to people around the world, that's an asset, the biobank, with its 500,000 high-quality database, and our strength in genomic sequencing, essentially doesn't exist anywhere, right? So when you think about drug discovery or how can we push the boundary of what's possible in health, combined with what you've done at AlphaFold, that seems to me to be incredibly exciting. But look, this very well.
Sure. No, I 100% agree with you. I think that is the most exciting opportunity, both commercially and also for the good of the world, is what we like to call digital biology. I mean, the advent of a new era where you can do a lot of the exploration work in silico with things like AlphaFold, and we spun out a new company called Isomorphic to sort of build on AlphaFold. AlphaFold is, finds the structure, but I think that AI technologies and computational technologies are going to revolutionize drug discovery and healthcare over the next decade. So we're well positioned, I think, in the UK to take advantage of that. Yeah,
and it's what you were saying earlier. It's the application of things like AI to all these other industries, and it so happens that we're pretty good in some of these other areas. Yes. So when you put those strengths together, I think great things can happen here that are not just good for the economy, right? As you said, it's great, creates jobs, creates prosperity, but these are things that can transform society. I mean, that's what's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Well, I think we got a few questions from the audience.
Yeah, so we got some time to take some questions from the audience as well. So let's crack on. Who's got some questions? Anybody? Yes, do you want to introduce yourselves as well?
Hi there, I'm Laura. Thank you so much for that address. Prime Minister, thank you for your incredibly modern and innovative approach. Demis, you have global impact, and yet we're so lucky to have you in the UK, so thank you for choosing the UK to build your business. My question is one around scale and pace of innovation and the regulatory framework. So we know that because of the pace and the scale, international collaboration, as we saw with the vaccines, international collaboration is so vital for our UK businesses to drive and adopt modern technologies, not just AI, but the ones you mentioned before. So how in the UK are we planning to embed a regulatory framework that can drive innovation and yet at the same time balance, I think, some changing regulatory dynamics globally?
Oh, Zara, thanks. It's not a formula, right? But your question is exactly right, and it's what I touched on. It's getting this balance right between protection and safety and guardrails, but not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and making sure that we continue to promote innovation. Now, as I said, it's not a formula, it's just a way that we approach these things. I think comes, as I said, comes from it probably stretches all the way back to the Enlightenment, right? That led to the Industrial Revolution, and our approach to these things, which is probably just in our cultural DNA, which is a great asset for the UK. But I think we approach things with a principles first logic, which I think is right, and I think that really helps us get the regulation right. I think we're big on engagement, right? And, you're sitting next to Chloe, who's superb. I'm someone who takes this stuff seriously. So you've got a government that is focused on engaging with industry to make sure that we understand how the innovation is happening, to make sure we're creating a safe space for it to happen. Regulatory sandboxes are a good example of that. In fintech, Demis mentioned that as one of our strengths. The FCA was, I think, the first regulator in the world to create a regulatory sandbox. That's now becoming a scale box. That's been exported around the world. So look, I think that we've got a good track record in doing that. I think the other thing I'd say is we've got to make sure that the incentives and the environment is right to diffuse the technology across the economy. Because it's no point we create these things and they don't get spread so that the benefits are not realized fully. And I think that's actually something that we probably need to do a better job of. There's actually good academic research that the kind of diffusion of technology and best practice across the economy in the UK is probably a bit less than is optimal and less than other countries. So I think one thing we all need to keep an eye on, it's not just the incredibly switched on, innovative people in this room. We just got to figure out how we spread that mindset to every small and medium-sized company everywhere in the country, because that's how you really get the benefits of these things realized. I don't know, Demis, if you
Yeah, just to sort of touch on the point of international, I think international cooperation around AI is going to be critical. It's just, far too big a technologist for one country, one company. We all need to come round to discuss this and to make sure we reap the benefits and minimize the risks. And I'm really pleased the Prime Minister is supporting the Global Summit, and in the autumn, we'll hopefully bring together world experts from academia, industry and government together to talk about these important topics. But I think it's the first step in an important journey here.
Thank you. Right. We got any other questions? Who have we got? Is the lady there?
Yes. Yeah, hi, good morning, Prime Minister. Thank you, Demis, as well. I'm Erin Platts, CEO of the HSBC Innovation Banking in the UK. So a very special day for us as we launch our new brand. And it's clear through what you covered that we are all aligned in terms of wanting to make the UK the best place to start, scale, and invest in innovation and life sciences businesses. But can you talk a little bit more about what this ecosystem should expect over the next 6 to 12 months, perhaps in the areas of scale-up capital, procurement, to ensure we continue on the journey to be a global superpower?
Yeah, thank you, Erin. But also thanks to HSBC, because I remember that weekend vividly with regard to Silicon Valley Bank, and it was great that we had an institution that was prepared to step up quickly to work with the government and other partners to come and rescue it and make sure there was continuity of funding for our ecosystem. I think you and your company deserve enormous credit for that, and it's great that we're here celebrating the launch of HSBC Innovation Banking, which hopefully can become a big global brand and business supporting technology businesses. So thank you. What can you expect from us? I think you can expect responsiveness, as I said, a government that is listening and engaging, a government that gets it, because that's important, but also a government that's working at pace, right? We are not in the business of resting on our laurels. I think we get that all of this is moving at a pace that means government has to move at that same pace. And you've seen that in the creation of this AI task force that I announced a little while ago. Now that's going to be modeled on the vaccine task force. It's going to have the agility and the flexible kind of delegated authority to just do what it needs to do, build a leadership position in AI safety research, ensure that we have sovereign capabilities where it makes sense. So I think that's the sign of a government that's doing things differently and acting a little bit more like all of you in this room. And that's very much come from my own experience and career. And I want to bring that same way of thinking to government as well. I guess the other thing I'd say is you can see that in the businesses, that many of whom are here, who are, I guess, voting with their feet. It's great to see just the other week Palantir announcing that their global AI research is going to be done, European research is going to be headquartered in London. That Anthropic and OpenAI are joining DeepMind and having their European headquarters in the UK, and they just announced that a couple of weeks ago. And just today, fantastic news that one of the world's leading venture capital firms, Andreessen Horowitz, is opening their first international office here in the UK. And I think, why are they doing that? Partly it's because they think not all the things that we've talked about, but particularly Web3 and blockchain is another technology which has enormous promise. And they see this as a place where that type of research and innovation is going to be done in a very strong way. So I think that's all evidence of a government that is doing all the things that I said, and you can see the outcomes because I think companies are voting with their feet and saying, look, the UK is where we want to be. Good. I think I'm conscious of time, so we probably need to take a couple of questions from the media as well. So could I maybe start with the BBC, if they are here?
Hello, Helen Cat from the BBC. How concerned are you about the short-term impact of AI on jobs, given that we're already seeing some losses? And is Boris Johnson undermining you, and did anyone at number 10 at any point meddle with his honours list?
So, on your first question, look that's look, it's an obvious, when we think about the risks of AI and what are people worried about, obviously, people's concern is for jobs, and you've had announcements where it started for the first time, AI is being associated with how companies are reforming or restructuring their workforces. So obviously that's going to be anxious for people. Look, we've grappled with these things in the past. I think MIT had an interesting study that they'd done where they looked at all the jobs of today and discovered that I think 60% plus didn't exist 30, 40 years ago. To give you a sense of something that we've had to grapple with before. Look, I think what does that mean? It means governments have to ensure that everyone has access to education and skills at every point in their lives. And that's what we're doing. We're changing how we fund education. So it's not something that we think of as just something that stops when you finish school or college. It's something that you'll have to come back to and will want to come back to over the course of your entire career and dip in and out of. So I think that's incredibly important. Plus making sure people in the first place are set up to participate in this new economy that is more focused on technological skills, and that's why I'm very passionate about making sure people study maths to 18. I think that it's something where we're international outlier in not doing that, and I think we need to do a better job of that for all the benefits it will bring, including in the creative industries that I talked about, where the jobs are becoming even more quantitative as well. And look, when it comes to honours and Boris Johnson, look, Boris Johnson asked me to do something that I wasn't prepared to do, because I didn't think it was right. That was to either overrule the HOLAC committee or to make promises with people. Now, I wasn't prepared to do that. As I said, I didn't think it was right. And if people don't like that, then tough. When I got this job, when I got this job, I said I was going to do things differently because I wanted to change politics. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm also keen to make sure that we change how our country works. And that's what I'm here talking about today, making sure that we can grow our economy, that we can maintain our leadership in the innovative industries of the future. Why? Because it's going to create jobs for people, it's going to spread opportunity around, and it has the potential, as we've been discussing, to transform people's lives. And as Prime Minister, I want to make sure that that happens, because I want to make sure that I improve everyone's lives in this country and do it in a way that is right and is in accordance with my values. And that's what I'm going to keep doing. I think next we've got the Times.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mark Selman from the Times. We are hosting this summit in the autumn about AI safety. Do you believe that existential risk is a reality in terms of one of the risks of AI eventually down the track?
Yeah, look, I think I'm sitting next to someone who's much better placed to answer this than me, Mark, so I'll let Demis comment on that. Look, I think there's a range of concerns people have. One is the socioeconomic impact that we just talked about, the impact on people's jobs. And then there's obviously risks around misuse, right? How do people use AI to do things that are bad? And people have always used technology to do bad things. That's not a new thing. We just need to be alert to that. There's kind of what we call tool use, and AI as a capability that provides new opportunities for malicious actors. And then there's what I guess technologists like Demis would call capability overhang, which speaks to the kind of last category of risks that then start to trend into a space where people are talking about very significant risks that some would call existential, others would say alongside things like pandemics and nuclear war. And that's obviously concerning. And that's why I think it's important that we put guardrails in place to make sure that we develop and exploit this technology in a way that's safe and that is secure. That's why the summit is important, because it will bring together people to consider those risks, make sure that we appropriately plan for them, discuss the right guardrails to put in place, and the research and evaluation that we're going to need to do to make sure that we're on top of it. So I think those are the kind of topics that I'm interested in exploring at the summit. But Demis, do you have a thought on?
No, so I agree with all of that. And I think there are different, we've talked about incredible opportunities of AI. I think those, everyone understands those well, but there are attendant risks with any new transformative technology, and AI is no different in that respect. And I agree with the Prime Minister's sort of different buckets or categories of risk, and I think they need to be mitigated in different ways, from bad actors using these technologies in bad ways, that's a sort of access issue, to near-term risks of things like bias or deep fakes, and I think there are new technologies along the way that are coming along, like encrypted watermarking, which will help with that. And then there are these sort of more long-term technical AI risks, things like alignment, controllability, interpretability of these systems. And I think here there's uncertainty around those risks, and we need to understand and research those systems a lot more over the next few years to have a better handle on what the boundaries are of these systems, including the risks and then we can put the right guardrails in place, and government can put the right guardrails in place. So I think there's in the situation where there's a high degree of uncertainty, but a huge potential impact either way, I think the right way to proceed is with the precautionary principle. Proceed with exceptional care, be optimistic about what we can do with the opportunities, and sort of use things like the scientific method to study and carefully analyze these systems as they get increasingly more powerful in the future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Demis. And then lastly, Bloomberg.
Hi, Celia from Bloomberg. My question is, why would AI people decide to come to the UK and cater to a UK scheme when you have a much larger trading bloc like the EU going ahead with their own AI regulation?
Great. So that's a good question to end on, because it speaks to everything that we've been talking about for the last half hour or so. And that's about the UK just having confidence in itself. The UK is one of the leading places in the world for AI, as we are in so many other strengths. That's not me saying that, that's the facts. Look at the AI research capability that we have here, the number of citations and AI research that's produced, essentially kind of after the US, we're the leading democratic power when it comes to the quality of our AI research base. Look at the number of AI companies that we have here. A third of all of Europe's companies are here. I think twice as many as anywhere else in Europe. Look at the money raised, same. And then look at the companies themselves, right? As we just talked about, there's 3 frontier labs. Demis is headquartered here. Google have headquartered their AI business here under Demis's leadership. But then Anthropic and OpenAI have just opened their European offices where? They've opened them here in the UK. You've got Palantir just opening their global AI research capability here in the UK. So look, those are all the reasons we should feel confident and optimistic about our lead in AI and our ability to play a leadership role. And the creation of the task force with more funding than anywhere else in the world for safety research, again, is a reason why I think we can play a leadership role in this, and we can develop all the evaluations and the auditing that Demis talked about. We're going to steal a march on that and get going with that quickly. But look, this is not about imposing our view of the world on everyone else, right? This is about convening people and bringing them together. Academia, business, governments from around the world. AI doesn't respect national borders. This is about us just bringing people together to talk through these issues together and ultimately put in place a multilateral framework, because that's what it's going to require ultimately. But do I think the UK can be a leader in shaping that conversation? Absolutely I do, right? Because we've got incredible strengths here, and we shouldn't be shy about that, right? We should be confident in our ability to lead this conversation, because it's incredibly important that we get it right. It's going to be incredibly important for the future of our country. We want all the benefits that AI can bring, but we need to manage it safely. You know, that's my job as Prime Minister, and we're going to do it working together. And I'm very grateful to Demis as well for his support. But you know, I think we can have a very exciting summit, which is going to produce some really important outcomes, not just for the UK, but for the world at large.
Great. I think that's all we got time for. So thank you, Prime Minister, for all your valuable time and support. Look forward to getting right with it.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Minister.